So I apologize, it's been a little while since I've done any videos or photos in the group. I've been busy with things at home, and I've been busy today moving things around, getting this room rearranged. This is kind of becoming dual fish room slash office space. My wife and I live in a really small square footage home, so I have to maximize the space we have. And this hobby seems to be ever growing. So I have most of the Japan Blue Golds in this 20-gallon tank. This has been set up temporarily on cinder blocks. I had it actually on the floor right here under this window. And I had this little desk lamp giving it just enough light for the hornwort and moss to grow, or stay alive anyway. And then of course there's a sponge filter. And all of these are fish that I've bred and raised up. And they were out in a pond this summer at where I work, at Scenic Water Garden Nursery. And brought them home before it got cold. And I had the original colony still in a 5.5 gallon aquarium. I don't have room to put this many fish in that 5.5 gallon aquarium. So I had an empty 20 sitting around, filled it up. At the time I had a hang-on back, threw that on there, brought home the fish and some hornwort and threw them all in the tank. And because I brought home hornwort, and then of course there was mold in the bag from the bottom of the pond when I was catching the fish, the tank was instantly cycled. I haven't had to go through a cycle process. I think I've lost 2 or 3 fish, but that was probably more due to stress of transport than it was ammonia cycle, because I've seen no signs in the fish of ammonia or nitrite damage. So they've been thriving. There are new babies in here. They're kind of hard to see right now. They're probably all hiding in the plants. I basically just drained this tank down to just a couple inches of water, left the fish in there, moved it across the room on these cinder blocks, and then filled it back up. And the reason I put it on blocks instead of on the floor again is because it's very hard to do water changes when the tank is right on the floor, because you can't use a gravity siphon. And I have a teeny tiny little pump that hooks up to my siphon hose, but that takes forever, forever to drain water out. So this will go a lot quicker for water changes now. There's no substrate in here, you'll notice. Typically I'm an advocate for deep substrate and tons of plants. There is a lot of plant material, but there is no substrate because right now it's all temporary. And I was originally planning on not even keeping this set up permanently, but I've realized, as prolific as this line is, they need a bigger tank than a 5.5 gallon. I'm not going to be able to manage them forever in a 5.5 gallon tank. So they have a 5.5 gallon tank. Now, what I really wanted to say is really talk up sponge filters. So this is a brand new sponge filter. It's only been in the tank for a few weeks. And it's being run by this little tiny air pump down here. I've had this air pump since I was a kid. And it's a little, I think it's a little Whisper air pump. And it's only rated for up to 10 gallons, but you can see it puts out even still a decent enough amount of air to run that sponge filter and oxygenate this water. I apologize if I'm snuffling. I'm having allergies and sinus stuff right now. But yeah, so it's running, I think, sufficient air. I wouldn't mind a little more flow, but that's enough. The fish are gonna have plenty of oxygen, and the filter will function the way it needs to, which is primarily for biological, as sponge filters aren't the best for removing particles, although they do, it's just slow. You can see there's a little fry back there in the back. So there's a lot of fish in here. I plan to remove all of the Japan Blue Golds out of the 5.5 gallon and set everybody up in here, and this will be the colony tank. But the sponge filter is awesome because it's simple and it doesn't break. It lasts forever, unless you don't do maintenance. If you don't rinse them out, eventually they're going to get impacted, and if you do that too often, it will ruin the sponge material. So you do have to clean out the sponges once in a while. By cleaning them out, of course, I think we all know, but if we don't, you've got to I do it when I do water changes. I pull the sponge out and then I just wring it out over and over and over and over again in the water I pulled out of the tank. You don't want to put it in tap water because then you kill all the beneficial bacteria in the sponge filter. Now, that being said, a lot of people would panic about that. I don't view the sponge filter as my primary filter. I put air in the tank to oxygenate the water so that the ecosystem functions at optimal conditions. The sponge filter is just an added bonus. If I'm going to run air, I might as well run a sponge filter. However, the tank itself is the filter. There's bacteria growing all over that sponge, but there's bacteria growing all over every surface area in this tank, including the plants. In addition, the plants are filtering the water. So the primary filter for any aquarium, in my opinion, should be the tank itself. That is the main filter. And then the plants, and then whatever filter you're going to add on is just a bonus. So truthfully, there's probably enough beneficial bacteria in this system to where I could treat that as a filter for particles and just wash it out in tap water every week and just not worry about bacteria on it, because there's plenty of bacteria everywhere else in the tank. But might as well take advantage of it as a biological filter as well. As I was saying, the sponge filters don't really break down. They're pretty bulletproof. And what else is cool is air pumps last a long time too, even if you buy really cheap air pumps. This is a cheap, like, I think Walmart used to carry this Whisper air pump when I was a kid. And so, and it's only rated for 10 gallons and it's doing that much air. This pump hasn't worked for I don't even know how long. And I've always felt it vibrating and I can see it's trying to push air. And I thought, well, I'll test it again today and see if it works, because I don't have another way to put air on this tank right now. So what did I do? Well, it was trying to push air. It was vibrating like crazy. I thought, it's trying to work. So I took the air pump and I tapped it on the concrete of the cinder block right here a couple times, and away it went. Started right up, and it looks like it's going to keep going. So just a testament to the efficiency of sponge filters. They're cheap. They last forever. They're simple. They're foolproof. Air pumps, yes, they can fail, but they don't fail often. And like I said, that one's since I was in high school, maybe even 12 years old. But it's an old air pump, and it's running and putting out air at a level that I find acceptable. Eventually, this room is going to be finished, and I'll have a better airflow on this. I'll have a better system set up. I'll have a permanent stand and everything like that. But for now, it is what it is. So hope that was informative, and maybe if you're thinking about what kind of filter you want to use, maybe it's helpful in making that decision. The other great thing about sponge filters, in that they're cheap, is that if you're running multiple tanks, it's a lot more affordable to run a sponge filter than it is to do any kind of power filter, and that uses way less electricity. Air pumps use far less energy than water pumps do. So anyway, hopefully this is beneficial to you guys. You may already know all this, but maybe some of you don't, and so maybe it was helpful for some. Hopefully I will be able to put up some more pictures and videos coming up. We'll see.